friends, my name is Marinés, and just as everybody else is finishing up their 2015 reading year in review videos, here I come. I've already put out a series of videos looking at some fun categories within my readings like romantic pairings and parents and heroines. Plus, I mentioned my favorite and least favorite books in the collab that I put together, and I will link all of that for you guys to check out in the description below. Today, I just kind of wanted to wrap up my final thoughts and look at some statistics and just what I pulled together when I saw the entire scope of what I had read in this year. The only goal that I set at the beginning of 2015 in ye old days before this channel was to read 72 books, and I surpassed that by reading 79 books. My average rating was 3.89, and I was a little bit surprised by that rating. I expected it to be lower. I think because I speak so candidly about the things that I don't like, and because those reviews and those opinions attract so much attention, it skews my own view of what I'm reading. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I love being a critical reader, and I love those reviews, and I love being able to tell you exactly why I did not like a thing. This is just coming from a place of being a little bit surprised that I only gave out 4 1-star reviews and 4 2-star reviews in all of 2015. My 1-star reviews were Shatter Me by Tahira Mafi, which was also my least favorite read of the year. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, also known as the book whose Goodreads rating is most likely to send me into a cardiac arrest. Slammed by Colleen Hoover, which reads like a middle schooler trying to write about a mature adult relationship. And Twilight by Stephenie Meyer, which is Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. My 2-star reads were Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and I Was Here by Gail Forman. 51 of the books that I read were authored by female authors, which is great, and a thing I kept track of only because it would have bothered me if I had read more men than women. I'm biased that way. Now, I put all of my reading in one of these categories, either young adult, middle grade or children's, adult fiction, non-fiction, or graphic novels. These are the kind of categories that always make me feel a little bit itchy, but I did it because I wanted to keep track specifically of what YA I was reading. I read 5 non-fiction books, 7 children's or middle grade books, 14 graphic novels, 25 adult books, and 29 young adult books. It's not a huge difference between my YA and adult books with 25 and 29, but I'm going to be shifting that a little bit to favor the adult books in the upcoming year. All of the books that I rated 1 or 2 stars in 2015 were young adult books, except for A Darker Shade of Magic, which is a young adult book parading as an adult book. Another thing that I tracked throughout the year was the format that I was reading books in, and out of the 79 books that I read, only 29 of those books were actually from the library, which is just mind-boggling to me considering how many books I checked out from the library. To be fair, 14 of those 79 books were graphic novels, and I like to purchase graphic novels because I like to read them in physical format, and my library doesn't have a very extensive graphic novel section. The remaining were 38 ebooks that I bought to read, 5 hardbacks, and 8 paperbacks. I seriously need to look at how I'm using the library because I'm such a proponent of the library and I talk about it all the time, but apparently I'm being really inefficient in the books that I'm taking out versus the books that I'm actually reading. So that is also part of my goals for this year. I want to take a look at what I'm doing. What am I bringing home? And I also check out ebooks, but I don't know, man. Across those 79 books, I also listened to 17, at least in part, as audiobooks. I generally do not remember to tell you guys when I've listened to an audiobook because 99% of the audiobooks that I listen to, I also read along with. I'm the type of person that couldn't get into listening to audiobooks, but when I started to reread The Lord of the Rings, I decided to listen to it as I read along to see if that helped my enjoyment of the story, and it really did, and I got into the habit of listening to and reading along with the book at the same time, which is a completely inefficient use of my funds. I tried to limit that habit to when the library has both the audiobook and the book available for me to check out. Someone told me that that habit is like the old school, you know, chime and turn the page things we used to listen to as kids. I just love doing that now. I started reading graphic novels at the end of 2014, and I've been on the fence about them as a whole. Obviously, the art is a big pro here, but the brevity is always something that I struggle with. I feel like I need a little bit more meat to my characters and my plots than what graphic novels typically offer. That being said, in 2015, I did find more of a groove with graphic novels, and basically I just had to look for things that were a little bit longer. One of my favorite graphic novels of the year was Fables, and I've read the deluxe edition book 1 and 2. I've mentioned this graphic novel series on my channel a couple of times, but basically it's fairy tale characters living in modern day New York undercover because their lands have all been conquered by some evil person. I love that this is a finished series and that they've been bound up in these longer editions because I feel like I can get more engrossed into the story even though it's made up of the smaller issues. I also love that we follow such a large cast of characters and we jump around from different stories because it keeps it fresh and moving quickly. Some honorable mentions for me this year were Seconds and Jane the Fox and Me. I know this was kind of all over the place, but I just wanted to get those final thoughts out there, and I will end by talking about some of my favorite reads for the year. In that collab that I mentioned, I named Imperfect Light by Benjamin Alida Sands as my favorite read of 2015. The second book I read this year was A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan, and I absolutely loved it. I actually read through half of this book and I went back to the beginning and started reading it again because it's a series of connecting short stories, and I just wanted to make sure that I was really seeing how they all connected and picking up on all of the details. So before I was even done with the book, I was rereading this book. Another favorite, which is a little bit surprising to me, was Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and I didn't expect to like this as much as I did. I found the beginning a little bit flat, but I don't in retrospect because I can see what she was building, and at the time I was just kind of like, oh, get on with it. But the book works so well because of how she lays it all down and all of the pieces that she starts feeding you until you see it all come together in what are some brilliant characters. I love the characters in this story. They're not good by any means, but they were just so amazing to read about, and they gave me a lot to think about. Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I feel like this book has haunted me in a way because whenever I think about it, I can still feel the feelings that it gave me while I was reading. This is a story about some very flawed people, but it spoke to some of my experiences within family and community and as a minority and a woman, and man, it just absolutely got under my skin. Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and I owe you guys a full gushing review of this story, which was absolutely beautiful, but it is another one that caught me by surprise. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this as much as I did, and I also felt like I was led astray by the synopsis that most people give you of this story. It's nothing like I thought it would be about, but it was absolutely worth it and beautiful. The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. As I've been working my way through Gaiman's work, the Graveyard Book has managed to remain my favorite, but The Ocean at the End of the Lane may in fact dethrone it. This book is just so creepy and full of meaning and very in your face and matter of fact in Gaiman style, where he just tells you that these weird things are without a lot of context to them, and you just have to go and accept them and appreciate the story for what it is. There's just this ocean at the end of the lane and you'd better deal with it, and if you can, you unlock an absolute treasure. I'll give special shout outs to two series that I read this year, and the first is the Fairyland series, which you guys have heard me talk about, and I promise I'm one day going to do a full review of these books and just tell you why I love them so much, but I'm waiting for the last book to come out in March. And also I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy in full in 2015 and I just absolutely fell in love. I get Middle-earth love now. I just wanted to also mention these two series because obviously I love them a lot in the past year. That's it for me in this video. If you have any questions about my reading this year, or if you've read any of the things that I mentioned and want to chat about them down in the comments, let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much for reading this video. Maybe these are faulty statistics.